What's going on, y'all? We've got our first second round matchup set for the NBA playoffs. We got the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. But yeah, today we're going to look at their matchup, so make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all my playoff coverage. I've responded to every comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. So I want to have a conversation with you guys. I want to know what you guys think of these potential series. I feel like this camera angle makes me look so small, too. I promise you I'm actually like a really tall person. But anyway, let's get into the analysis. Alrighty, so you know we're back on the spreadsheets to help me diagram things. I really don't use this one for much else besides showing potential lineups and rotations and stuff. But anyway, Nuggets, Timberwolves, both teams that pretty handily took care of business. The Timberwolves kind of just downright embarrassed the Suns for most of the series. And honestly, like, Denver just felt like they had control of their whole series. So even though, like, it'll say, like, yeah, the Lakers technically led for, like, the entire series, but somehow the Nuggets won, like, every game, it still just felt like they were in control the whole time. And that's because the Nuggets have all these, like, role players that play like all-stars all the time, like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, right? But there's been some questions about this team, mainly these boys over here, and the lack of there being a backup big on this team. That is a big concern, because who are they going up against? They're going up against the giants of the Midwest over here, and Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Naz Reid. So this should be a really entertaining series, right? Like, both of these teams are extremely disciplined, and they've been playing really, really well in the playoffs. Obviously, the Nuggets offense runs like a well-oiled machine. The Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll has never looked better. Michael Porter Jr., aka Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter, doesn't miss any jumpers ever. He just doesn't. KCP's still doing his 3-and-D thing. I know he got hurt in the last game, but hopefully he'll be okay by Saturday. Aaron Gordon is a rebounding and just playmaking and just do everything machine. But then the bench is where we're going to have some questions. You look at the Timberwolves. Defensively, they just completely locked down the Suns' big three, which I just didn't think was going to happen. I thought the drop coverage and everything was going to be a problem, but guess what? They didn't really play drop coverage because Rudy Gobert was switching on to Devin Booker and like locking him down on the perimeter for the first half of the series. But then otherwise, Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards are just running around every screen and not letting them get by. So that was just nuts. Combine that with the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns is playing in the post now a little bit. He's hitting all his shots. Anthony Edwards is apparently just that dude, and you even saw Jaden McDaniels show some of that scoring that he has the potential of doing in the last game, and you've got yourself a tough team. Not to mention, like, the bench just is better for Minnesota. But let's talk about potential matchups. So I think something that really helped the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Phoenix Suns was the fact that Cat was guarding KD. And now, Cat, not traditionally the best defender or anything, but I think that's more so because he was an off-ball defender. I had a theory going into this season that I'm like, if you put Towns in more on-ball defensive situations, one, it's going to make him more engaged in the game. I think he's going to be a better defender that way because he can't just, like, sag off and forget where he is on the court like we saw him do whenever he was playing center before Rudy got there. He'd get confused in the pick and rolls, and it was a whole big mess. But with him guarding KD, and I know KD got relegated to the corner at times, but whenever he'd come up onto the perimeter, Cat really got to get up in his face and show off that athleticism. So I think they're probably going to put Cat on Jokic, and I believe they did that for most of their matchups anyway this season, just because that makes more sense. And Aaron Gordon was more so roaming in the paint during the Lakers series anyway, so that gives Rudy Gobert a chance to kind of sag off, right? And if you're going to let anybody shoot the ball on this team, it's going to be Aaron Gordon, at least from the starting five, so that's where Rudy can kind of sag off and play more of his help defense that he's so accustomed to. But otherwise, I look at like Michael Porter Jr. as an interesting one to cover because Michael Porter Jr. doesn't move a whole ton on the court, right? So that's where you can kind of hide people. And there's two ways you could look at this, right? You could say, okay, we can put Jaden McDaniels on him because that's our best chance of getting a contest off, and that makes a lot of sense. Or we hide somebody like Mike Conley on him because he doesn't have to play a ton of defense. He can just stay all up in his grill the whole time. And while, yes, if Michael Porter Jr. catches the ball, he's just going to shoot it right over him, and he's probably going to make it because that's what he does. It might open up another opportunity to put like a Jaden McDaniels on like a Jamal Murray to try and disrupt the Jokic pick and roll. I don't think that they're going to do that until they have to. That feels like more of an adjustment. That feels like you're thinking 2 steps ahead before you just see if your general matchup can work. So what I think they're going to do is I think they're probably going to stick Ant on Murray. I think they're probably going to keep McDaniels on Porter, and I think you'll see Conley guard Caldwell Pope. Now, that's asking a lot out of Ant, but that's your young star, man, and he's got that dog in him. And can I just say, I love the fact that Ant is like talking like trash and like getting all up in people's faces like after the game. Like, I don't want to seem like an old head or anything like that. I'm 25 years old. I mean, I didn't grow up in like the meanest of NBA eras necessarily, but like I just love that it's not all like hugs and kisses after the game. game, man. It's like, yeah, no, like I really messed y'all up in that game. Like y'all got to watch out. And I just love that about him. And I think this could be a really chippy series because of that, because these boys want to win too over there in Denver. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking for the matchup. So I'm thinking it'll be pretty consistent. I think you'll see kind of a cross match here between Towns and Jokic and Gobert and Gordon, and probably a cross match here amongst the guards. And so when you get to the reserves now, what's going to happen? Let's talk about the bench for Denver, because I keep alluding to it. Reggie Jackson had a good game last game. Hasn't really done anything else besides that. Christian Braun didn't hit a single three in that series. Hasn't looked very good at all. Peyton Watson is 6'8" and athletic. All right, let's go to the Minnesota Timberwolves then now. But like kinda, right? Like that's kind of what you got from them. And that's why it made me so mad that they were like, the Lakers just need a better team out there. Like, what are they supposed to do? I'm like, the Nuggets literally have like 5 playable players right now. And it doesn't look great for them right now. Because like normally Christian Braun, did I call him Braun earlier? It's Christian Braun. I don't think he knows how to say his own name. I'm going to keep it honest. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of names, but I don't care because I know none of y'all can say my last name anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, yeah, no. So Christian Braun was really good throughout the regular season. We'll see if it picks up in the next one. Reggie Jackson, just kind of on the downside of his career at this point. Peyton Watson's young. He could explode at points, but, like, he's kind of just a transition guy, athletic, defense, run, jump, dunk kind of guy. So that's what he's going to be this series. But you have to wonder, does maybe a Peyton Watson maybe not get as much burn or something, or a Christian Braun, because maybe they need to go DeAndre Jordan to match some height for things, or maybe they need to go Zeke Naji because he can... Did I misspell Zeke Naji? Why isn't it populating? Oh, I'm in the wrong cell. I know how to use worksheets. But maybe they have to go like a Zeke Naji or something to try and combat the fact that there's just going to be size on the court at all times. Because I think that's really going to be a problem for them, right? That was the problem with the Suns. They had no size. And the Nuggets don't have much size either. Like, they've got size in Porter Jr. here and Aaron Gordon, but like you got Cat and Gobert and Reed, like 2 of those 3 on the court at all times, with like a Jaden McDaniels who's a good rebounder, with an Anthony Edwards that's a good rebounder, right? Because he's 6'6" and athletic, he's 6'9" and athletic. Like, they just completely out rebounded the Suns, and they just didn't really stand a chance. So I feel like they're going to have to look to their bench and either put in a Zeke Naji or a DeAndre Jordan so they can match somewhat of the height out there. Otherwise, they're just going to get out rebounded. Like, Aaron Gordon did a great job against the Lakers, but the Lakers bigs are way, 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 way different than the Minnesota Timberwolves bigs. So that's just a concern to me. So I'll assume that Christian Braun's still getting in the rotation, but maybe it's Peyton Watson that doesn't get in, and maybe it's one of these guys. I don't know. I feel like they need to insert more size into their lineup for any of this to go well for them. But yeah, no. Anyway, 6th man of the year, Naz Reid, absolutely doing his thing. Hasn't really hit his 3 ball quite as much as of late, but always subject to change. He's a good shooter at the end of the day. Hustle guy. He can put it on the floor a little bit. Absolutely dynamic player. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's basically another 6th man for them with the way he's been shooting and scoring, and it's just awesome to see him coming into his own. Like, he came into this league as they were like, maybe he's like more of a scoring guard or point guard or something, and now he's like a 3-and-D wing. It's awesome. He's really found his role. Absolutely love to see it. Kyle Anderson, it looks like he's going to be getting the kind of the 8th man minutes here. Good defender, can put the ball on the floor, can facilitate things. Can't shoot to save his life. Doesn't always finish great around the rim either. So offensively, there's struggles in the scoring, but if they need to, right, they can always bring another guard in, and Monte Morris, who's been a little underwhelming in all honesty for them, but it is an option for them. He's a very capable player. Yeah, I think the lack of depth could really hurt the Nuggets here. At the end of the day, the Jamal Murray-Jokic pick-and-roll thing is going to be the main thing. That's going to determine all the matchups. That's going to determine, like, hey, who's Ant guarding, who's McDaniels guarding, how are we covering this thing? Everything else is just, we'll figure it out after that, right? Because if they can slow that down, the Minnesota Timberwolves could very well win this series. Like, I think we're all learning very quickly that this team is very much about it, and they're going to do what they can to get these dubs. And obviously, with Chris Finch being down and everything, I hope he's in the game and everything, and I hope they can kind of maintain the game plan that he was going for in the Suns series, because I really thought he did a great job coaching in that series. Like, one of the things he did a lot was make sure Towns got to touch the ball early in the game and, like, early in the second half. Like, hey, Towns, we want you involved, man. Like, let's go get you some post-ups where you can just ISO, just go at people, just go be big and strong. He'll be able to do a similar thing to Aaron Gordon because he's got the height advantage over him. Aaron Gordon's a much better defender than, like like KD in that situation just because of the weight, if nothing else. But Cat's gonna hopefully get his attempts and everything, and he can get going because Ant will find his shots, right? He will. But Cat, you gotta give him the ball and let him work a little bit. The question is gonna be, I'm gonna assume they put Jokic on Gobert, and he's probably going to be enough to defend him. Gobert just needs to be a little bit better offensively. Earlier in the Suns series, he was really good with his hands and making sure he was in the right spot on the court to get those nice dump offs. In the back half of the series, he wasn't that great at it, and honestly, he was making some dumb plays. So I want to see that facilitator Gobert back. Being able to switch onto people is going to be important, and then just overall just having good hands so that when guys like Edwards or Conley or McDaniels are going to the hoop, they can dump it off to you for some easy jams. So I went and pulled up just like the stats of these two teams playing against each other. They did split the season series this year, so just something to note with that. Looks like the Nuggets were making about 10 3-pointers a game against them, which, Timberwolves were a really good defensive team in terms of 3-pointers, so that's awesome. They held them to 34%. That's going to be huge. Can they continue to do that? Free throw percentage was not very good against them, so just kind of an interesting note there, and they were -5.5, so that could be a difference right there. Turnovers, not horrible, not great. The Timberwolves were a great defensive team though, so that just is what it is. Where do I have points? Here we go. Yeah, 104 points a game. So like Timberwolves defense, really, really, really good. That's not a surprise at all. But otherwise, you look at things like steals, blocks, like getting 5 blocks a game, and that's because the Timberwolves attack a little more, a few more opportunities for that, but getting 27.3 assists. Wow. Nuggets offense, man, they just really be rolling with stuff, I guess. But yeah, no, so that's Denver's look at it. This is the Minnesota Timberwolves against them now. So obviously putting up 110 points a game against them. Like I said, they split the season series, but they scored a few more points at the end of the day. 3-point percentage was a little more respectable. That makes sense. Denver's not as good at guarding the perimeter as Minnesota is. The rebounding, 39.5 versus 45. So Denver won the rebounding battle in the regular season. It's going to be interesting to see with the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of like turning things up a little bit. Is that going to be something that they can maintain? 10 turnovers a game versus 15. That's a big difference, right? They took care of the ball a lot more, and obviously one team's just not as good defensively. And then, yeah, no, this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a really interesting one. If I had to give my prediction for this series, I think, because I got this wrong last time, I think I'm going to go Minnesota in 7. I'm going to go Minnesota in 7. I think this is going to be a crazy series. I think you're just going to see some games where Murray and Jokic are just unstoppable because I think it's the best offense that exists in the NBA. But I also think there's going to be games where like the Denver just doesn't have an answer for the physicality of these guys, and they just get too many second chance points. Anthony Edwards starts doing his dance and everything, right? And they're just not going to be able to slow him down, especially when they get in front of the Minnesota crowd, man. Like guys like Ant and McDaniels and Cat live off that stuff. And when everybody holds up those Naz Reid towels there, everybody just goes crazy in Minnesota for them. I don't know, but yeah, I think depth is just going to be too big of an issue for Denver to overcome. In this one, somebody's got to step up. Hopefully Christian Brown can start shooting well. I have to imagine they throw another big in the rotation. I just have to imagine they do. That's why they got these guys in the team. But anyway, what do you guys think? Because I think this is going to be the hardest to determine series out of all the potential second round matchups. But I want you guys to let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.